Hello, and welcome back to Student Diaries. In episode 2, we'll be finding out even more about our Sussex University students' lives. I hope you enjoy. Thank you. Hi Sarah, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, thanks. How have you been?
Good, I'm fine, thank you. How's the last month been?
Good. Exciting times. I signed up to do Mount Kilimanjaro climb this summer, so fingers crossed that'll go all right.
Good. How did you hear about that?
So a friend of mine's boyfriend is a student rep for the charity that's mostly student inspired, and he was panicking a little bit because he's supposed to get at least 10 people to sign up and he hadn't had enough interest.
Right.
So I, out of the kindness of my heart, went to the little information evening. So we all, maybe about 15 of us, crammed into a little room, pulled the blinds to, got way too hot, and watched a little PowerPoint presentation about what this charity aims to do, where they're working, why we're climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, and everything to do with that and the opportunities associated with it. So very lucky my flatmate has such an exciting boyfriend.
Yeah, quite. Wow. So you signed up to climb that next year, presumably?
Yeah, next summer, June, July time.
Right, so you've got lots of time to prepare. Do you expect it to be challenging? Have you done this thing before?
I've climbed Mount Kinabalu in Malaysia, so it's definitely going to be harder than that. But I think the hardest thing is going to be feeling like I'm prepared for it. For Kinabalu, I just rocked up on the day, asked if there were any spare passes. There were, and so a friend of mine and I just tried to hop up it as fast as we could, which was really good fun. And because of the complete ignorance about how hard Kinabalu is, it wasn't easy, but it wasn't as hard as it could have been.
Wow.
But Kilimanjaro has a very different reputation. It is the highest peak in Africa, and it's people have died doing it, and knowing that makes it much more intimidating. And having to not just prepare physically for it, but having to prepare my mind so that I don't get worried or anxious about that, so that I feel like I am capable and that I don't limit myself, is, I think, going to be the biggest challenge of it all, along with fundraising £1,500 for it. So
absolutely. Which charity is it for?
It's for, I've been trying to avoid saying it because I can't remember the name of it. It's the website related to it is climbforwater.org.
Yeah.
But it's based in Kenya, and they have an entire Kenyan workforce. They don't do any international volunteering. They don't send the students that volunteer or other climb mountains for them to go and see the communities. They're very strict on making sure that they only send people that know the communities there. They try to support local employment, training local teachers, making sure the community feel involved in their actions rather than just dumping a load of Western resources there and saying, here you go, aren't we great? So I've worked with other charities in the past and seen that happen, so I had a good nose around, and I was happy to find that they weren't volunteerism-ish. They were genuine about what they wanted to achieve. So
good for you. Wow, well that gives you something to look forward to, and like you say, physically prepare for, but more so mentally, I'd imagine. I mean, what do you hope to learn about yourself by doing that exercise?
I think I want to learn that I can achieve beyond what I initially believe. At the moment, I kind of in my heart know I cannot climb Mount Kilimanjaro, but I want to see if I can change that, because if I can, then I will be able to. And it's that sort of cycle of, if I think I can achieve it, I can achieve it, but because I don't think I can achieve it, I can't achieve it. And getting stuck in that to and fro. So being able to take control of my opinions, my thoughts, and maximize them so that I can achieve the most that I can achieve, not just for me, but for the people I'm climbing with, for the people that are going to have all of the funds we raise put into their lives, because they deserve to be treated better than they currently are by their environment. So
Wow. So you did a very spur of the moment climb at Mount Kilimanjaro.
Yeah.
I mean, have you done anything before? Is this something that runs in the family, or?
So I've I've done a couple of Tough Mudders, and I did a marathon before I came.
Yeah.
And I've cycled down through France on my own, for charity, mostly for Mind. So I guess it sort of runs in the family. My brother's an officer, and he just got back from hiking in Kuwait the other day. So I think thrill seekers run a little bit in my family, but my parents are the most down-to-earth, chill people you'd meet. So it's definitely more of a sibling thing than the whole house. But it's Kilimanjaro is definitely the biggest thing I've done. I've done skydiving, bungee jumping, but that's short burst. It's exciting and you're done, and it's not a big challenge once you step off. Whereas with Kilimanjaro, every single step forward is another challenge. So it's a whole different calibre, I think.
Well, I'm sure you'll learn something new about yourself, and then maybe able to put that into practice in life. Sounds great. So you've got that to look forward to. So as for the here and now, how's your coursework going?
Good. It's because we're just coming up to the end of term, we've only got 3 weeks left. So I've just this morning I handed in my final essay, 1,500 words done in just one morning.
Great.
Not due until next week though, so if I suddenly have a eureka moment, I'm not going to panic too much.
Yeah.
But grades-wise, it's been way less stressed than I thought it would be. I was ready for everything to be hard and my brain to have shriveled to the size of a peanut on my year out, but they've eased us in really nicely. It's been mostly A-level work, concepts that are just quite nice to play around with, easy to discuss, just all the support we need. There's drop-in hours, there's a whole discussion group on the uni website that you can just ask questions into. It feels like they want us to succeed and land on our feet, and it feels like, at least it feels like I've sort of landed on my feet.
Sounds like you've landed on your feet. You started your course, you're enjoying that, you're enjoying university and everything it's offering you. So it's good that being able to balance that, I guess, also with the charity work you mentioned last time, and also the ongoing work that you're doing. Balancing those two, is a very useful skill as well going into the workplace. I mean, have you thought about how your ideal job would look like, the kind of the sector, what you'd be doing?
I think I used to want to be in healthcare as a doctor. That was my dream. With my mum being a GP, it was sort of easily signposted. And I've looked at finance because of what my younger brother, who's also a decade older than me, is doing as a management consultant. Those two have seemed like quite easy options, quite accessible. But since being at Sussex, looking at the third sector has been more of an option. It seems like there's more opportunities to do things that benefit a wider society and not just you and your immediate family. It's looking at how you play a role in a wider world and how you can maximize the benefit that you give. I think ideally having some work-life balance would be really good, not just working all day every day, but also not being so rigid that it's just 9 till 5.
Right.
I quite like the idea of sometimes just working on the weekends because there's a project that I really love and having that passion for it that means it sometimes spills over, but also having time to make sure that my hobbies can be a priority and can be enjoyed, and I can still go like running at the weekends and I can still go for long bike rides and impromptu trips to Paris or whatever it is that I'm doing when I'm like 30. But being able to balance just having a good time and feeling like a good person with doing something positive that is also hard work.
That lifestyle sounds very much like what people going into their own business idolise, being in the driving seat, being able to do things on their terms. And many companies are shaping roles along those sort of entrepreneurial routes, so you do have that flexibility and that autonomy. And the third sector is certainly growing in appeal with this generation, I guess. Would you agree that you kind of feel that responsibility collectively to improve society, the environment, things like that? Is that
I would say definitely. Even if it's not to improve specific things, there's definitely more of an ethical ethos around our generation at the moment. Like veganism's going crazy, and people are caring about the environment, especially with the most recent statistics that have been released. People are realising that, wait, the people in power at the moment aren't doing what we want them to do, we're going to be those people in a couple of years. Let's start the process now.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to a really interesting talk on campus the other day about Generation Snowflake.
Right.
Whether it's a real concept, why it exists, and all of that. And it was interesting to see how what I perceive as being ethically forward, progressive, really bold and active can be seen so negatively as being like being weak-willed and mentally weak and unable to just accept reality, and how generational that divide is. And it did make me worry a little bit if I get into a business and there is that expectation of me to be a weak-willed individual with silly ideas, that it would be so hard to function because you're not going to be able to put anything forward and have it taken seriously. And a business can't survive if people at the top aren't listening to the newcomers, because your markets are the new people and you can't be trying to cater to people that are going to die soon. As horrible as that is.
Yeah, interesting hearing your take on that. I read things about millennials and Generation Snowflake, and like any generational opinion, it's very general. There are similarities across different generations, of course. So, we'll see how that pans out. But been fascinating catching up with you, Sarah. Thank you very much for your time, and we look forward to checking in with you next time.
See you next month.
Hi, Tor. Great to see you again. What have you been up to in the last month?
I've been a lot more active at uni, being on campus, and focusing on deadlines which are coming up in the next kind of week and a half, and then also focusing on placement deadlines which are coming up in the next couple of days.
Okay, so quite a lot going on. Can you tell me about your placement deadlines first of all?
Yes, so I was successful in my application for Great Ormond Street.
Yeah.
So I've now been invited to an interview and like a selection process where you have to do some cognitive tasks.
Excellent.
And I'm also currently filling out applications for Sussex Partnership Trust.
Yes.
So they are kind of general hospitals, psychiatric hospitals, and outpatient mental health settings.
Okay, so you've been shortlisted for an interview.
Yes.
Have you had interviews before?
No, I haven't. So this is my first interview.
Okay.
And my academic advisor has offered me support.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe the library also do support around kind of interviews. The thing about the placements is that you're only supposed to apply for one placement at a time, and you're not supposed to apply for another one until you know you're a definite no.
Right.
Unfortunately, because the placement deadlines are so close together, this isn't feasible, because my next deadline is Friday, but my interview isn't until next week, and I won't hear about Great Ormond Street until next month. So if I waited for Great Ormond Street, I would have missed all the Sussex ones.
So time's ticking, you've got to make a decision what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Okay, so how are you going to prepare for this interview? You said your academic supervisor will help you. Anything else to make sure that you ace this interview?
I think I'll probably need to read up on the psychological services of Great Ormond Street again.
Right.
Because I think a lot of people assume that Great Ormond Street is more about really sick children, kind of leukemia, cancers, and things like that. But Great Ormond Street do literally everyone 0 to 18, and the bits that I'm particularly interested in is helping children with like non-epileptic seizures or medically unexplained symptoms or pain, and then taking a psychological approach towards that.
So you're going to do some preparation on the organisation.
Yes.
Anything about the kind of questions they're going to ask you? Do you know what sources of information will you use to?
I don't know. They haven't given us any information. They've just said this will probably not take longer than an hour.
Face to face?
Yes.
Right.
So it's up in London. And we know that 8 people have been shortlisted.
Right.
And I think about 40 of us applied.
Okay.
And I think there's also from different universities as well. So it will be about 2 or 3 people that get the placements.
Okay. So, I mean, you've got a good chance. by the sounds of it. And that's going to happen, did you say next week?
Yeah.
Next week, okay. So you've got a bit of time to prepare
Yes.
and get ready for that. So apart from that, presumably you've got coursework and project deadlines coming up?
Yes, so we've got our in-class and workshop deadlines. So they're more of a team-based task.
Yeah.
So we've got things which are, I think our last one is tomorrow, before Christmas, and that's based on developmental. So we're all supposed to be reading readings and kind of thinking critically, and then you've then got like question-based learning, which is kind of where there's no wrong answer, and it's trying to get you to think and justify why you think that is the correct or the best answer.
Right. Okay.
So that can be quite difficult because some of the time you're thinking, well, maybe it's a really obvious answer to you, but then your teammates may disagree. So it's definitely about kind of discussing and kind of coming to a conclusion and then getting your opinion across without then upsetting other people.
Upsetting other people. So this is a group project. You're working
Yes.
with other people. Okay.
Yeah.
And how are you finding that?
I really enjoy it. It's good to hear other people's opinions,
Right.
and it makes you think of things which you haven't thought of.
Right. Okay. And home life, how's that been in the last month?
It's been good. It's been a bit stressful, settling back in, and kind of more financial issues,
Yeah.
kind of just related to bills and things coming through which aren't quite right. So we had a bill to say we'd used £600 of water
Right.
in 60 days, and I don't think that's even physically possible, even if you were filling a swimming pool every day, because it's a lot of water.
Right.
And then we're also getting bills from previous tenants, and I found out that that was because the previous tenants were with a energy company who went bust on Monday.
Oh, right.
So obviously they were kind of fishing for money.
Yeah.
That made me panic because I opened up this bill and I was like, what is this? We don't use this company. So I've been looking at the kind of the financial side of if a company goes bust and it's the previous tenant's debt,
Yeah.
are we liable and things like that.
Right. Hopefully not.
Yeah, I hope so too.
And what are you doing to switch off from all of this?
I'm doing a lot of baking,
Yeah.
particularly flapjacks.
Lovely.
So oats and golden syrup are affordable for students.
Yeah.
And then to compensate for all the flapjacks I'm eating, I'm going to the gym.
Excellent. Very good. Anything else that's been going on in the last month?
I've joined the health and wellbeing volunteer service.
Oh, okay.
So there are volunteers who are students on campus, and they're doing kind of sexual health, drugs, alcohol, and mental health.
Yeah.
So we can organise campaigns around mental health and substance abuse, and also we can offer drop-in clinics for sexual health.
Right.
So offering free condoms, free pregnancy tests, free STI tests and advice. And it's really, really important that it's free for everyone, all international students, and basically anyone on campus, including staff.
Right. And how have you found that?
Bit daunting at first because it's kind of still people don't really talk about sexual health. I think it's probably talked about less than mental health,
Yeah.
and kind of trying to find the balance of information without then scaring people, because we had to go through every single symptom of the STIs, and yeah, I think if you weren't properly educated, you'd probably say, this is stupid, why have the human race continued, why do we produce children?
Right.
So it is quite daunting and quite personal, but it's good to kind of break down barriers.
And learn new skills, I would imagine.
Definitely learn new skills, talking to people who I wouldn't usually talk to,
Yeah.
and working in a team again, and then also working independently, being able to just approach someone, things like that.
Great. Wow. Well, that's quite a lot in the last month, and thank you very much, Tor. We look forward to checking in with you next month. Ella, hi, how are you?
Hello, yes, good, thank you. Other than the weather.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming along today. We're very keen to catch up with you, see what you've been up to in the last month. So what's been going on?
Unfortunately not as exciting as last time, but it's mostly been, my time's been consumed with essays. So I've had a lot of deadlines due, because my course is all coursework based, so I've had 2,000 word essays to write, and I'm in the process of writing 2 more 3,500 word essays. Plus I have my dissertation outline due next week, so lots of writing, which has left me not much time for anything else, but I've been playing a lot of sports still. We've had a lot of away games in the last 4 weeks. I've been to Gloucester and London and Surrey and back to London and Southampton. So I've been to a lot of different places. Yeah.
It's about 5 games.
Yeah.
Wow, and they're all away.
Yeah, so they tend to do it so you have like quite a few in a row at home and then quite a few in a row away. Yeah, so tomorrow we're back in Surrey. So lots of travelling. But it's been good. It's a nice brain break away from all the essays, and I'm quite good at writing on the train. So.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, which is nice. I've also had a lot of graduate scheme related things to do. So I've applied to 4 more schemes since we last talked.
Yeah.
I've got through the paper sift of all 4, which is nice. But then you have the competency tests. So I've done lots of maths and literacy and situational judgment tests, which do take up a lot of time. And out of the 4, I've only had 1 response to go through to the next round, which is nice. Better than the first 4 I applied for, but still feel like you keep hitting roadblock after roadblock when you're constantly doing these tests.
Yeah.
And, you either have to have a really long wait after you've done the test to find out whether you got through or not, or you just don't hear back, which is a little bit of a shame.
They're very time consuming, and it is expected by a lot of recruiters.
Yeah.
And they use them for a reason very often, because they have many applicants to go through. So, I mean, what would you say is a reasonable amount of time between you completing one of those tests and then you hearing back from an employer?
Yeah, I think a couple of weeks is ideal, because I keep a little spreadsheet of what I've applied to and which stage they're in.
Okay.
And it's kind of nice to see which are progressing, and then if it sort of progresses no further, do I then have time to move on to apply to another graduate scheme? So it would make my life a little easier if I sort of get a quick turnaround. But obviously that's not always possible. And it's also the length of the tests that I think potentially could be a little shorter. So from my opinion, I think why do we have GCSEs if I have to resit maths and English tests again? I know they're not always the same, but I think it's kind of like the same level, sort of a low A level, high GCSE level literacy and maths tests, which is nice to refresh your brain, but when you've done 5 or 6, it's a little frustrating. And sometimes the varying levels is crazy. So I did a test the other day for EY, and it was so difficult. I was thinking my brain was not with it. I wasn't even able to work it out. It was so difficult.
Right.
And I thought, gosh, but I don't know what kind of people they want for these jobs. But it's obviously not me. But I gave it a go, didn't get it. Yeah. And then I did a different one for the Treasury, which is economics based. You think would be want a really high level of maths, and I found it really simple. So I was so confused about the range of abilities in the test. They vary so widely, so I think it makes you really difficult to know where you are and whether.
And they're all for a similar role on a graduate scheme, requiring economics graduates.
Yeah. So it's strange, and then other sort of the situational judgment tests, I think those are the ones that would be so nice if you could get feedback from, because they're obviously looking for a certain competency, which is fine, and it might not be that you fit that competency base, but it would be really nice to hear afterwards why you didn't, or just we wanted 80% of this competency and you only got 50 or something. It would just be really nice to see where you sort of fit on the scale.
Yep.
And then you can tailor yourself to the next test that you do.
Yeah, and use it as a learning exercise
Exactly,
as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of in this stage where I'm doing
Yeah.
all these tests and I'm getting a little bit muddled up. So I'm hoping it comes a little clearer the more I do.
It's interesting you raised that point about the time it takes and then maybe the lack of communication.
Yeah.
Because the candidate experience is very important for a lot of employers, because in some cases you may also be a consumer of their product. I mean, how does it make you feel having a poor candidate experience? Do you take it to heart, or you just think, oh, they're all like that? Or
Yeah, sometimes when I first started to apply for graduate schemes, I was focusing on like the public sector, and I was getting frustrated with the style of their schemes and how they were wanted applicants to apply. So I moved more over to like the private sector, commercial schemes, and they're a little more user friendly, and you can tell they've perhaps invested a little bit more money into how people react to these schemes, which is nice, but I still don't think they're perfect. So it's not like I'm not now only going to apply to private companies. I think I'll still stick to a mixture.
Right.
The only one scheme that I've applied to that I thought was really nicely set up was the local council scheme. And it's because you have four short 10-minute tests rather than two 30-minute tests, which most of them do.
Right.
And they're multiple choice, and it's like a game format. So it's so much easier to use, and you're engaged, and you don't feel like you're in a maths exam writing questions down. So I thought they were really nice, and I responded better because I was perhaps more engaged in the test rather than just sitting down thinking I've got another maths test to do. So yeah, if perhaps companies, it's possible to tailor these tests more into like a game or a real life scenario, it makes it a lot more engaging. Definitely.
Yeah, there are some companies who have real life scenarios for those situational tests, which are very popular with students and graduates, and also any application process that uses elements of gamification, which is what you're alluding to there. And that they're the ones that will gain, because they have a positive response for those candidates that go through that. It takes a huge amount of investment and time to create something, but from what you're telling me, it might be worthwhile for employers to seriously consider that.
I think so, because I think a lot of people, like a lot of colleagues I've spoke to recently, are just in the sort of lull now where they started to apply lots in September, and then they've got a lot of negative responses or no responses, and then you hit a brick wall and you think, I can't do any more numeracy and literacy tests because I've done loads and I've got nothing back. So perhaps like a variation would keep people's motivational levels up. Definitely.
Wow. Factor that in with all the sporting fixtures and then all your dissertations you've got coming in. That's a lot on your plate. But I mean, would you say having all this thrown at you and the challenges that it gives you is giving you certain skills? Do you feel you?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's also an element when you get to third year of this third year syndrome where you suddenly realise you've got not much time and a lot of things that you still want to do while you're at university. So I think it kind of just makes you get on with things. Like you suddenly become really good at time management because you've not got a choice because otherwise you'd bury your head in the sand and you get nothing done. So it definitely made me sort of put my shoes on and get involved and get on with it. And I think it gives you sort of the push in the right direction, because if you don't apply to any of these jobs, in the back of my mind is that in May, when I've finished and I've got my degree, hopefully, I need something to look forward to, or an end goal, because without that, then the whole process is...
there's a timetable for applying for these roles, and work put in now will hopefully come good later on.
Yeah, I think the universities are pretty good as well at this stage. They're offering quite a lot of nice things, such as like I've applied to do like a course in Excel just to improve skills like this, and it's all free, just to sort of bump your CV up a little bit. So I think the university is aware, and they are good at providing things that go hand in hand with applying to all these different schemes. So that's really positive too.
I mean, would you say the majority of people are doing what you're doing on your course, or are you in the
I think I might be in
minority?
the more like proactive
Yeah.
band. I do think a lot of people don't know what they want to do, and all these graduate schemes sort of scare them a little bit.
Okay.
I think after Christmas there'll be a bit more of a wave towards, oh God, we're in our last term now, we need to start applying to things. So I'd say it's maybe like 30% that are applying now and 70% aren't.
Interesting.
But there's a lot more people that I think don't know what they want to do, so then they do a master's.
Okay.
Whereas I'm 100% not in that
Right.
bracket at all. So that's maybe why I'm more proactive than others. I think I'm not sure, and I've applied to some things, I don't know where to go, so I'll just stay in education is the answer for a lot of people's problems, which the university obviously love.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people could be dissuaded out of that bracket if it was a little more approachable to apply to these schemes. So it might be something that changes like over time.
Yeah, we've noticed over the years slightly more people staying on at university, either because they're not sure what they want to do, or they feel that they need that to give them an edge in the job market.
Yeah,
I mean, there's arguments for and against,
definitely.
but at some point, you have to make a decision, or you be a perpetual student.
Yeah.
So it's great that you're being very proactive, and certainly an extremely useful skill and worth putting in the effort right now, as even though you've got so many things going on.
Yeah.
I think the way you're managing your time is very, very good.
I see myself on the home straight now, so
Good.
it's a means to an end, which is nice.
Excellent. Excellent. That's good to find out. Thank you very much for your time, and looking forward to checking in with you next time.
No worries.
Thank you. I hope you learnt a little bit more about our Sussex University students in episode 2. Join us next month in episode 3 and find out even more about what they're up to. Thank you.